and welcome to this week's video. Today we're discussing my September wrap-up. So the month of September just ended and I feel I had a really strong reading month, even though I went through a little mini reading slump in the middle of it. But I still pulled through and I read 5 books, but I started a 6th book. I'm over halfway done and I am really happy with this month's reading. So without further ado, let's just get on into this video. The first book I completed this month was Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse by Rick Riordan. This is the 3rd book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and I absolutely love this book. I gave it a 4 to 5 stars, and I am really happy that I got around to reading this book this month. This series follows our main character, Percy Jackson, who is a demigod in a world where the gods of Olympus are present and interact with mortals. And we follow Percy throughout all his trials and dangerous adventures, and I just really love this book series and I enjoyed reading this book. The second book I completed this month was Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. This was an amazing book and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is the 6th book in the Throne of Glass series, and I am really excited to getting around to read the 7th and final book. But this book was really great, and I'm really happy I read this. I was postponing reading this book for the longest time, but I'm so happy I read this book. It was an amazing continuation of the series, and I am excited to read the 7th book. This book series follows our main character, who is an assassin, and she is in a world with corrupt politics and an interesting magic system, which I really enjoy reading about throughout all of these books, and I highly recommend this series. It is a great fantasy series that I really recommend. Now, the 3rd book I read was Fahrenheit 451. Now, this book, even though it was short, it took me 2 weeks to read because I didn't really understand this author's writing style. I'm sure I would have enjoyed this book more had I have read it in the future when I'm older, like around 30 or so. I'm sure I would have appreciated it more, but I just didn't really connect to this story, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. This book follows our main character, Guy Montag, in a world where the printed book is illegal, and he is a fireman, and firemen's jobs are to burn books and the houses they're hidden inside instead of saving houses. And I thought that the concept was really interesting, but like I said, I didn't really connect to the story or the writing style. Even though I got into that mini reading slump, that didn't stop me from finishing my September TBR, and the 4th book I finished was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a great book, and I thought it had a really interesting magic system and politics, and I really enjoyed reading about it. And I like the main character. I liked the male protagonist. I think they had a really interesting dynamic, and the banter between them was legendary, and I just really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend you guys go check this book out. This book follows our main character, Elizabeth, in a world where she's training to be a warden of a library. And these libraries hold grimoires or magical spell books, which I thought was a really interesting aspect about this book. Like, these grimoires are like quirky and they have different personalities that I really enjoyed reading about and learning with Elizabeth. But when her library is sabotaged, she's accused of treason, and she must find help in a sorcerer, and together they get caught up in a centuries-old conspiracy. And I just really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend you guys go read it. Fifth and final book I completed this month was Bloodleaf. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was a really interesting story that I flew through. I read it in just a couple of days, and as soon as I started it, I didn't want to put it down. It kept me on my toes throughout the whole story, and I highly recommend to read. This book follows our main character, Illyria, and she is a princess that her kingdom hates. And after a devastating assassination attempt on her life, she must seek refuge in a foreign land, and to escape her fate of marrying the prince of this land, she disguises herself as a commoner, and she is just wrapped up in a centuries-old conspiracy that makes her choose between having a life worth living or the weight of her crown. I really enjoyed this book. I thought Illyria was an interesting main character to follow, and I really enjoyed the political aspects of this book, and I thought the magic system was really interesting. And the 6th book I started but have not yet complete is Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. This is the 4th book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, and I am about 220 pages in, and I am absolutely loving this book. This book series is an amazing fantasy series that as soon as I started, I can't put it down. I was kind of dreading picking this book up, considering it was just a couple days left in September, but as soon as I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I have been flying through this book, and I'm very excited to finish it. And that concludes my September wrap-up. I am excited to carry over this momentum of finishing 5 books into next month, and I am hopefully gonna finish 6 books next month. That's gonna be my goal. But I thought that this month was a really strong month. I loved most of the books I read this month, and I'm really happy about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to go like this video and go down there and subscribe, and also hit that bell notification so you get notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.